Welcome to How to Be Alpha, a show exploring the essentials of having a personal brand and how to generate revenue using your own face and stories. I'm your host, Elizabeth Halford, and I've been curating my personal brand since 2008, when a career as a pro blogger landed in my lap. I became a well-known brand, generating a full-time income before that was really even a thing. I took a break, and now I'm back, bringing you all the juicy gossip to be alpha in your business. And by that, I mean being the best you can be, because your only competition is you, which is great news because it means everyone can be alpha. A few notes before we get started. Don't drive and take notes. Every episode has its own page at youisalpha.com/podcast. Also, please leave me a review on iTunes. You're a small business. I'm a small business. You know the drill. I might even read it out on air. Thanks for joining me. Let's jump right in. Oh, hey, it's the holidays, in case you haven't noticed. And it's our second year in America and the first year in our new house. I gotta say, a Florida Christmas, it's harder to get in that festive feeling, but I'm getting there. I've gotten there so much earlier than usual, which means we're loving every minute of it, which means I am uber behind on my show. Until now, every episode of How to Be Alpha has been 2 weeks ahead, which is very good practice when you are publishing content to be ahead for these kinds of reasons. I don't want to lose momentum, but my daughter was gifted a Disney cruise by Make-A-Wish, and I left without the next episode in the pipeline, which was a big learning experience. And to be honest, when the honeymoon phase of a new thing wears off and you're just left with the hard work of doing it, it can be really easy to give into resistance, to procrastinate, to have all kinds of excuses that allow you to stop you from continuing to create. And I see it as sort of a backsliding wherein if you stop rowing the boat, the current will just take you back. And it's even harder work to catch up. So in light of all that, I'm feeling less prepared and gung-ho than I have been in the last few months of this show. So I was going to skip this week, but I remember something that Lorne Michaels said about Saturday Night Live and Rolling Stone magazine in the 70s. When they first started, and he said, we don't go on because we're ready. We go on because it's 11:30. And so for better or for worse, it's a Sunday afternoon and the house is full, so there might be noise in the background. But I am preparing this episode to fulfill my commitment to publish every week, whether I feel ready or not. But first, a review. I received possibly my favorite iTunes review so far, and I'm completely present to the fact I may have already said that once before, but this review is wonderful because it's very broad, which is exactly what I intend this show to be. And it says, How to Be Alpha is a great magnifying glass to cast over any relationship. And I love this so much because while this show is for brand and business owners, it is first and foremost to help you achieve personal growth, because when we are healthy personally, every venture we put our hearts into can be more healthy. I'm starting to have preliminary conversations with some incredible guests, which will be coming up soon. They are therapists and psychologists and coaches, and we're going to be talking about habits, thinking errors we make, the cycle of worrying, limiting beliefs, and all manner of things that try and push back against your calling. I also really love this review because I'm going to be talking in just a moment about what people say about you when you're not in the room. And every once in a while, someone will say something, you'll catch someone say something about your brand, and it is mirroring back to you exactly what it is you're trying to cultivate and project out into the world. And so when this reviewer says that this show is a great magnifying glass to cast over any relationship, that is perfect to me because that is exactly what I'm trying to do. And every once in a while, when you hear and you see and you witness and you experience people mirroring back to you the values that you're working so hard to communicate in your brand or your business, it's a really great sign that you're doing a good job communicating those things. In the last episode, I spoke to you about 3 speaking habits to make you a more powerful person. Number 1 was my favorite, and that is saying thank you instead of I'm sorry, and the reasoning behind that. So listen back to that episode and learn 2 additional and tiny changes to the things you say every day to become a more powerful and positive person. And today, we're talking about some of the things you can do to fortify your personal brand. Number 1 is thinking of yourself as a brand. And if you feel like you've heard me say that before, you are right, because I will continue saying that. You will continue hearing this from me, that before you can fortify your brand, you need to come to terms with the truth that you have one. Your brand exists. It is whether you manage it or not is what we're talking about. A way to describe what it means to have a personal brand is this: what you're known for. What you're known for professionally and personally makes up your brand. Professionally, I'm known for being ultra responsive. I try to always say yes. I get shit done. I underpromise and overdeliver. I believe that surprise and delight is a wonderful gift to give my clients, so I often deliver more product more quickly. Personally, I've heard people describe me as kind and loving. However, I have also heard people say that, quote, they wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of me. And while this isn't something I cultivated intentionally, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So I guess that it is a part of the Elizabeth brand, for better or for worse. And you know that I believe in positivity and that almost everything can be flipped into a positive. So let me show you how I take this idea that you wouldn't want to be on my bad side and make that a positive. As you know, I love personality tests. My favorite so far is the Enneagram, which I've spoken about a lot on this show. I'm a 3, for all you fellow Enneagrammers who know what that means. I once took something at work called the Plum test, which ranks you with your other team members in order of things like managing others, adaptability, conflict resolution. And one of the items on that was compassion. And I ranked as 0% compassion. Me. I feed every homeless person I meet, and this test said I had 0% compassion. I cried. I lost sleep. I took the test again, and then I came to terms with the idea that perhaps the Plum test could have been using a better word than compassion, but perhaps having 0% compassion means I'm the one in the team you can count on to fire someone. Or confront the Amazon guys when they pretend they didn't drop the TV before getting to the door. Perhaps having 0% compassion means having 100% moxie. Having 100% compassion might be incompatible with corporate culture, which doesn't generally care about your feelings because you are first and foremost a profit center. So this idea you might not want to be on the wrong side of me, well, maybe that means that when we're friends, I fight for you. I stand up for you. I don't let anyone get on our wrong side. Me and my friends were a very small gang, and you better not mess with us because you don't want to be on the wrong side of Elizabeth, you know? So knowing how others see you and talk about you when you're not in the room is an excellent start to knowing your brand, and achieving this means having honest people in your life who are willing to give you the truth about how others experience you, and this can be a great gift. It can be hard, but it can be some serious fertilizer for your personal growth. Because once you know your starting point and your baseline, you can either own those things and continue on in that way, or you can make a decision to grow out of them and, in essence, rebrand yourself. While I know that some people have the idea that they wouldn't want to be on my bad side, I choose to accept this truth and communicate to my friends and my family that they're safe to be themselves and that they can trust me to let them know what I need and not be aloof about what I hope to receive from those relationships. Professionally, this means being very clear about my pricing and my payment expectations and the terms of our agreements. And personally, this means letting you know that I need space right now or that I'm craving connection with you today. In short, your brand exists. So accept that fact, discover what people say about you when you're not in the room, and take control of curating, cultivating, and managing your brand. Number 2, add value. Being on Facebook, Instagram, having a blog, having a podcast, any other marketing channel is not enough. A medium is not a substitute for a message. Banal, Mindless posts and updates are not adding value for your audience. What is value? Content that educates about your product or service. Content which may have nothing to do with what you're selling, but is aligned with the common values that your audience shares. I love inbound content. It's about attracting your audience by providing what they're searching for, whether it has anything to do with your brand or not, whether they even know they're searching for it or not. It's attraction versus promotion. This podcast is a very good example of that. Because what You Is Alpha is about and what it is I'm selling, my product, is photography for entrepreneurs that help you to build a stock of photos that you can constantly go to connect with your audience on all of these different platforms, which really rely on photography in order to publish on them. You might not think about it until all of a sudden you're on Instagram and you're like, what am I going to post today? So I help you quarter by quarter, create all the content that you need to execute your strategy, to connect with your audience, and to always be at the forefront of their mind. How am I marketing this business? Well, I'm talking to you guys about other things, about things that matter to you, about workflow, about productivity, about life hacks. And this is an example of trying to add value for your life as a way to attract and not promote. And I think that in itself, this would be a great topic for us to cover in another episode. What is inbound content versus outbound content, attraction versus promotion? So we'll stick a pin in this for now. Adding value is also about always considering your customer's perspective. Many times we invent something or we introduce something into the market because we are scratching our own itch, which is handy because that often means that we are the audience. And this might not always be the case. Personally, I am the audience I'm attempting to attract with this business. I am a self-employed person. I'm a personal brand. I'm an online entrepreneur who uses photography every day, and I require a stock of images always at hand in order to reach you, my dear audience. In the process of writing this episode, I needed to identify which photo from my stock of images I could use as the episode cover, as the image I was going to use on Instagram to say, hey, the podcast is up. Check the link out in the bio. So I completely understand the need, the psychographic profile of the customer, and how to reach people like me. But as a wedding photographer, I am not the audience. I have been a bride before, but that was 17 years ago, and I am 35, so you do the math. I am by no means in the mindset of the modern American bride, and so I have to do research about the things that matter to her. Who's hiring the photographer? Is it the bride? Is it her parents? That depends a lot on the age of the consumer I'm going after. What else are they doing in the process of planning this event? How does planning a wedding affect the other aspects of her life? Is it stressful? How can a couple continue to celebrate their relationship with all of that stress going on? And then what happens after the wedding? After the party is over, when real life sets in? Do I stop publishing content that speaks to them after the wedding is over? Digging into questions like these can help us understand the mind of our audience and build buyer personas in which we literally create characters who we're speaking to. Give her a name. How old is she? What is the first thing she thinks of in the morning? This is just one of the many ways that we need to back up and take stock before we decide what kind of content we're putting out there to make sure we're adding value and not just making noise. Number 3 is choose a platform. You don't need to master them all. Hold that thought. I just need to introduce you to my sponsor. She's gorgeous and she's smart and she's alpha and she's me. Until I have a fancy sponsor giving me money to talk about their stuff. Hello, Squarespace. This podcast is sponsored by me and my business called You Is Alpha. Listen, when I was a new blogger and content creator, Instagram wasn't a thing. I survived for 5 years on one set of images. It's not like that anymore. If you use Instagram, email marketing, or blogging, your audience expects to be served timely, new, and stimulating visual content and the stories you write to go with them. You Is Alpha is a photography brand serving influencers, online entrepreneurs, and personal brands with batch-created photographic content to generate revenue by staying at the forefront of your audience's mind. And because we only shoot once per quarter, you walk away with 3 months worth of content to post and use regularly. Schedule that stuff out and get back to running the rest of your business. You can find me at youisalpha.com. Number 3 is choose a platform. You don't need to master them all. You don't need to be highly active on every publishing platform to grow your audience. For example, some of the largest accounts I follow and even buy from on Instagram have only a couple hundred followers on Twitter. I'm focusing most of my efforts on Instagram as my primary platform because I personally use it the most. I understand how it works, I feel excited about using it, and I genuinely love the functionality and the visual-centric nature of that platform. I am also on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter and LinkedIn, but my content is created for Instagram and then tailored to work in the other channels as well. I started a Facebook group for entrepreneurs, which I have done nothing with, and it's very possible that this is worse for my brand than not starting one at all. Aside from which channel is your favorite, another thing to consider is where is your audience living? If they're teenagers, consider Snapchat. Listening to what teenagers are talking about is a great way to know what's up and coming. Mine are talking about something called TikTok, and I have no idea what it is, just like I had no idea what Snapchat was in the beginning, but there is probably a way to reach your audience there if that's where they're hanging out. Kids aren't using Facebook. The LinkedIn audience is a very defined one, which I think really benefits from its own unique content strategy, which is content that you might not even be pushing out into your other channels. I personally see people better interacting with people on LinkedIn and not brands. So CEOs, for example, are better to be speaking to audiences rather than directly through the brand pages that they represent. And of course, those are being curated and monitored by marketing teams and not the CEOs themselves. In short, as a solopreneur without a large team, it's completely okay for you to choose a primary channel through which you're reaching your audience. And if you like, give that content legs by making versions which are friendly for the other platforms. When I make the cover art for this show, I export a square version, a YouTube version, a Facebook version, a vertical one for Instagram stories, etc. Each episode is in writing on the blog, being spoken for you here, and cut up into micro pieces for IGTV and YouTube. Number 4 is listening. You can listen by setting up Google alerts for your name or your brand name and keeping abreast of reviews and mentions on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can use a platform like Hootsuite to listen to more than one stream at a time. Some brands also listen to see what customers and audiences are saying about their competitors. I've worked for retail corporates where the social media team have large TV screens showing a live feed of mentions and chatter about themselves and their competitors. And this is certainly overkill for personal brands and solopreneurs like us, but creating a way to be easily notified when someone is talking about you can be helpful, especially when you need to have a stock of great reviews and quotes to draw upon social proof as a part of your marketing strategy. So that's it for today. 4 easy ways you can fortify your personal brand. Next week, I'm talking about ideation. I did a stint in ad school and I learned some incredible things about the advertising industry, particularly about ideation, which is shorthand for idea creation. And I love taking these principles and applying them to small brands and helping you to apply them to your own marketing. So look forward to that because it's a very interesting topic, which may just open a whole new world to you. Thank you so much for listening. You are such a babe. A reminder that all notes are available at uisalpha.com/podcast. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as uisalpha, and on Instagram, I'm ualphababe. Now go leave me that review, and remember, you is kind, you is smart, you is alpha.